Okay, look, listen. At the moment, I do not have the Pesipus because I recently moved house. That poor octopus is locked in a box somewhere, but given what happened overnight, I would like to introduce to you the Bad News Bear. That's right, there he is, the Bad News Bear. And just to calm you all down, we can talk to the Bad News Bear and we can say, Bad News Bear, why are you so sad today?
Well, it doesn't make any sense to me that John Moxley would come out with an open contract for the AEW World title and not one person would try and get a World Championship match. I mean, that is ridiculous.
I mean, seriously, what are you even talking about? Pow! There you go, no more Bad News Bear. Hello, my name is Simon from WhatCulture, and we did just have the Go Home show for All Out. It was called AEW Dynamite, the extravaganza. I added that last bit in, but let's find out if it gets an up or it gets a down. Using the finger of power, let's up those downs. Moxley was out to start Dynamite, which made all the sense in the world because he is the AEW World Champion, and as of this moment, we didn't have a main event for the pay-per-view. Once again, so many people lost their minds over this, but it's pro wrestling. It happens every single week for the entire year. You gotta do different things here and there, otherwise it gets so boring. And now that I've got all the information, I will tell you this. I liked it. We were in Chicago, so as soon as Mox did start talking, he got booed, especially when he was like, oh, I heard they're still mopping CM Punk's body off the canvas last week in Cleveland. And I was like, wait a minute. If you mop somebody's body off the floor, that means you turned them into mush. I don't remember seeing that at all. John also mentioned how Punk back on the indie scene used to be known as the 60-minute man, but that wasn't the case 7 days ago. And then he just took out his insult cannon because he said that Funk's got a fragile ego, he's got a fragile mind, he's got a fragile soul, he's got a fragile nan, he's got a fragile dog, he's got a fragile foot, and basically he absolutely sucks. But he does want to do some fighting, and yes, this is when he pulled out an open contract that was already signed and he threw it on the floor and was like, who wants some? Now, I don't think that's how business decisions work, but honestly, I did expect like a Looney Tune race to the ring as a bunch of people tried to put their name on this, but we didn't get it, and yes, we're going to talk about that later. This was such a good promo though, because John Moxley was so wound up and said, if you get in the squared circle with me, it will be bad for your health. So at the moment, making him the proper super duper world champion has made all the sense in the world, because now he's just like an end of level boss. This also got me excited for the entire episode, so we'd set the scene, give it up. What rocked the most though is that after Jonathan had left, Ace Steel got in the ring, and don't worry if you don't know who Ace Steel is, because the commentators let us know. They were like, oh my gosh, it's Ace Steel, not only one of CM Punk's best friends, but also a dude that helped train him. And he picked up this piece of paper and he ran to the back. My word, we should do more of this, because it left you scratching your head going, well, I wonder where this was going to go. Now, it wasn't hard to work out, but it doesn't matter, because it made your eyes interested, and your eyes are the pathway to the soul. I don't know what I'm talking about. We also zoomed backstage where Tony Schiavone was interviewing Chris Jericho, because of course he is taking on Bryan Danielson at All Out. And Chris was basically like, I'm the best wrestler. And if Stu Hart and Owen Hart were still here, they'd look at me and go, Chris Jericho, you the best wrestler. Maybe they would. This is when Daniel Garcia walked in and said, Chris, I'm so sorry for what I did last week. You're the man, you're the hero, and I must have made a huge mistake. And Jericho said, don't worry, Dan, I love you as well. You are one of the best sports entertainers in the world. And they shook hands, and it kind of looked like they had made up, but there was more to this. It also tied into the next match too, because it was the American Dragon taking on Jake Hager. I think this may be Jake Hagar's best match ever since he joined AEW. And what I really enjoyed is that in the early going, because Bryan Danielson trained in MMA and because Hagar is a literal MMA fighter, they were basically doing mixed martial arts stuff, trying to take each other down. And eventually Bryan went, nope, and he did a dive, but he really shouldn't have gone for another one, because Jakey boy grabbed him and he slammed him through Timmy the timekeeper's table. Honestly, that looked pretty sick. Hagar also lost it after this because he chucked Bryan right into the ring post and suplexed him in the floor, and then he got back in the ring and he was just punching him in the face, which is when Danielson was like, I don't like this. He took the big man out with a missile dropkick. Jericho and Regal were also on commentary, which is always a delight. And I think at this point, Danielson and Hagar remembered this. And they were like, oh man, we've got to impress our mentors. because they then started going for these submissions, but every single one was transitioned into something else. It was like watching a snake in the grass. Once again, what am I talking about? The best part was Hagar reversed one of these into a huge power bomb. I was like, oh, he's a strong dude. Which is when, from nowhere, Bryan Danielson rubbed his knee, he ran from the corner, he twonked Jake Hager right in the face, and he scored with the 1-2-3. But seriously, you should go and watch this, very well worked up. 2.0 were out so quick after this I started laughing to myself, but of course Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli came out to balance the books. And after they had all fought to the back, Bryan Danielson was left alone in the ring, so Jericho was like, all right, and he took a chair and he was gonna wonk him. This then got really confusing because Garcia came out, he stopped Jericho and was all like, oh no, you don't need to cheat to win, you're Chris Jericho. But this was a terrible mistake because when Chris did turn back around, he got hit with the big knee too. Afterwards, Danny was all like, oh no, I shouldn't have done this. Like when you bring your ex-partner to Thanksgiving, that never works out. But once again, we have just gone into tease mode here. So clearly something big is gonna happen on Sunday. But I don't know what the hell it is. Dynamite then pulled one of those, hey, we're gonna go super happy fun times. Because the wingmen were just in the ring. Now, thankfully, they did have a bunch of signs that were saying we should be on TV more. And I was like, yeah, that's a very good point. I haven't seen you in ages. After they had ranted on the microphone for a little bit too, some brand new music hit. And I processed my brain. I was like, no, I don't know who that is. When all of a sudden, out stormed W. Morrissey as the commentators were all like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I think he signed. What? He absolutely murdered these guys though and sent them likely right back to dark. When Stokely Hathaway also walked in, he gave Morrissey his card, and when Tony Schiavone was like, what is going on here? Stokely was like, don't talk to me, I don't want to talk to you. Now, two things here. One, you gotta go see this one chokeslam Morrissey did. He held the guy up there for around about 72 years. I think I was born, I died, and I came back to life again. But also, please can we establish this Stokely Hathaway group sooner rather than later, because we are throwing some really interesting wrestlers in there. I just need something I can plug into. But I tell you, given that I did not have this on my bingo card, getting it up. Don Callis was then in Will Ospreay's and Aussie Open's locker room just to try and wind Will Ospreay up. Like, it's if you have an older brother and he goes and he pretends to open his can of Coke, so you as a stupid younger brother open yours, and the older brother turns around like, I didn't open my can of Coke. For some reason that makes you really sad. No, that didn't happen to me. What are you talking about? This was, of course, to set up the fact that we were going to get a little bit of Kenny Omega versus Ospreay later, and then we were having a tag team match. Because given that we do have this four-way at All Out, it was Shida and Toni Storm taking on Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, and if this is a sign of things to come, that match in a few days is going to be pretty damn good. Now, I kind of do feel like we should give the championship back to Shida, because every single time she's on TV, everybody loves her. Although saying that, in the early going here, it was Toni Storm beating up Britt Baker, so maybe we go in that direction instead. Jamie Hayter didn't like that, of course, so she got involved. And around about this time, the commentators started to go, well, Toni Storm had dental surgery last week, and kind of funnily, that's exactly when Britt started to work on her mouth. Toni wonderfully got out of this by using a DDT, and as I say every week, I respect her dedication to this move. She got the tag to Shida, that's right, everybody lost their minds. She hit a Meteora. That's when my tum-tum started to say, I think she should be the new AEW champion. She also hit this flying kick on Baker and pulled Hayter off the apron. She was like a train. But then Toni Storm did this move when she hit the hip attack and then seamlessly went out of the ring and hit a DDT onto the floor, and I had to watch that twice because it didn't make any sense. It was like 2 + 2 = potato. I swear during that too, Shida must have been eating some power pills, because all of a sudden that HP and MP were through the roof. She hit the canasta, I believe it's called, and then just booted Britt Baker right in the face, and she pinned her for the 1-2-3. Now, this does go against my theory that she could become the champion, because I imagine there's a reason for that, but this was far better than I was expecting, and it is getting it up. We then got another match for All Out confirmed, because it is going to be Kip Sabian taking on Pac for the All Atlantic Championship. We had a little video here, and I just want to give Kip Sabian a round of applause, because he had that box-like structure gimmick for over a year. He kept on going, he kept on going, he kept on going, and now he's getting his reward. And there's a life lesson for us all. We're also in full-on "you've got to buy this show" mode, because we then cut to Miro after this, who just did a badass promo like he was in this darkened room, and he was just talking like a crazy man. But when he does speak this way, I'm like, Miro, I'll do whatever you want. Eventually, Darby Allin joined him, and he's trying to stir the pot by saying, "Oh, Buddy Matthews and Brody King, you don't need Malachi Black, he needs you." And this is when Sting entered as well, and he was all like, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." I don't know what he's talking about, but who cares? Sting, yeah. We are, of course, getting this trios match at All Out. And by the time that show is over, if this is not the most fun thing on the card, I will shave my head. But do not forget, at this point, we still did not know what the main event for Sunday was going to be. However, that was about to change, because out came CM Punk. He dropped the line that this wasn't the first time he'd been beaten up in Cleveland, which I think was a reference to his UFC career. And as that has come up, I just want to remind you that sure, Punk did get his ass kicked in both of those fights, but that is completely irrelevant because he can now say till his dying day, "I was on the UFC roster." And living your dreams is what's important. If you do go out there and you drop the ball, it doesn't matter because you gave it a go to begin with. And I truly mean this. I just wanted to get it out there. Anyway, after this, he went into a crazy emotional promo where he said he let his friends down, he let his family down, even name-checked his sister who was in the audience, and as much as he wanted to be a hero, maybe he had failed. But this is when Ace Steel came back out. He made sure to reintroduce himself, all the crazies on the internet, and he just got so damn passionate. It's like, "Who are you? You CM Punk, I'm so proud of you. I was your trainer. You better start looking at this in the way you used to look at things, and you better sign that contract." And yes, he dropped the F-bomb too. Whether he meant that or not, I don't know, but I was like, oh man, this is good. I did feel quite mean at first. It was like kicking a man when he was down. It was like, "Oh, you're lost and your personality stinks." But seriously, Ace Steel kind of embodied the best supporting actor here, who has to cut the most emotional speech ever because we have to save the world from aliens. And there was no aliens here, but if they had come down, I would have bet my ass that Ace Steel would have taken them out. It worked because Punk then lost his mind too and started talking about being born and choked and that to date nobody had killed him. And Moxley's not going to be the guy. Not going to lie, none of it made any sense, but I don't care because he said it with so much damn power. And then he went into the fans and he signed the contract by saying he will become the new AEW World Champion. And I was just throwing bones in my own lounge, which makes no sense because there's nobody here. He also basically said that Jon Moxley wasn't man enough to murder him, which is a perfectly normal thing to say. And I have not done this justice. You need to hear the delivery and you need to feel that atmosphere. This was CM Punk knowing, well, we're in Chicago and they will back me to the hilt. So if I times it by 7, we're probably going to create a moment. And that's exactly what we did. It also means that yes, on Sunday we are getting Moxley versus Punk round 2. And who the hell knows what's gonna happen there? I mean, maybe Barney the Dinosaur comes down and he becomes the champion. You certainly couldn't rule it out, but you probably should. And no jokes about it. This is getting one hell of an up. And look, yes, we shall talk about it. There are some people saying, well, why did nobody else try to sign this contract? And look, you are perfectly right. You are perfectly correct. But here's the twist in my world. I don't mean to ruin your day. Wrestling isn't real. Sometimes you do just have to be allowed to take some liberties in order to serve the plot. So liberty away as far as I'm concerned, because if it gets us segments like that, ooh da lally. AEW then remembered what had worked before, so they went to Jim Ross and they said, "Hey Jim, why don't you do a sit-down interview with Christian Cage and Jungle Boy?" So they did. Pretty good. Jungle is just getting better and better at these because he is being given more time to do them and therefore getting the experience. And Christian was all like, "Listen man, I'm here to win titles and I'm here to make money." Whereas Boy said, "Listen, I love you, Christian, and I know it's a complicated relationship, but it just means it's such a shame that come the weekend, I'm gonna have to rip your head off." The best part though is that this ended with Jungle Boy saying, "Well, you're not going to be taking on JB when we do get to Sunday, and you're gonna be taking on Jack Perry." And this is something that JR has been advocating for ages, and it does make sense. I tell my girlfriend, Christian is taking on Jungle Boy. She's like, "Why are you watching cartoons?" Once again, this could go either way when we do get to All Out, and this was just very solid. I mean, it was a bit short to give it an up or a down, but yeah, did the job. It was then back to the, where did this come from? Because Wardlow and FTR came out for a very random 6-man tag. Because they were taking on Silas Young, Ren Jones, and Vic Capri. Where did they come from? And honestly, these 3 dudes got absolutely murked. FTR beat them up for a little bit, they hit the big rig, and then eventually Wardlow did the Powerbomb Symphony 1, 2, 3. Look, I understand what we were doing here. It was to let you know, oh my gosh, when these guys do get to the pay-per-view, they're a unit and they know what they're doing. Probably would have been fine just doing a video instead. I mean, I'm not really sure you could be happy or sad about this. It's a bit like when I lost my hair. Eventually you just forget about it. You definitely don't stay up every night crying and wondering why it happened to you. But look, it did the job up. We just kept on going with this main event stuff too, because then from nowhere, after a break, Jon Moxley stormed back out, and he was the opposite of happy. Not happy. Because he just grabbed the microphone and said that fine, he will take on this match, but in front of Punk's hometown fans at All Out, he is going to experience more violence than he ever has done in his entire career. I totally believed him. Because seriously, these 2 guys have done a great job in making this feel legit. So when we take everything that happened 7 days ago, we take all the promos, and we take the entire storyline, I am going to throw another up in there because, as we said at the start of the show, wrestling just ticks on for 365 days in a 12-month period, so you got to take some risks. And this feels like a risk, and it feels like a success, and it's getting it up. It also made me start to ponder, well, how does Punk's foot tie into all of this? And that's an absolute bizarre thing to say when we did go to the back with the Dark Order, who are also struggling with injuries. Because Ten has hurt his knee after their match last week, meaning Evil Uno is going to sub in. But this is when Andrade and Jose turned up, and they just wanted Evil Uno to work for him. And as always, Andrade just throws money at the situation, and when somebody else is like, yeah, I don't really want to have anything to do with you, he's like, what? I don't get it, what is wrong with you? They did do this to Evil Uno, and the best part is when Jose just pulled out Cow Prod in order to stop Ten trying to interfere. And that was such a strange situation. But of course, why do we do this? Because, well, now Ten is out, and Evil Uno is out, and who is John Silver and Alex Reynolds going to team with? I don't want to be a spoiler guy, but it's Hangman Adam Page. They were teasing Hangman Adam Page. This is top tier storytelling though, which probably wasn't the same for the next match, because it was announced that we are going to have a casino ladder match at All Out. Because of that, why don't we just take 4 of the participants and let them go crazy? I am really happy that we did do this though, because it was Roosh versus Dante Martin versus Wheeler Yuta versus Fenix, and they absolutely killed it. I mean, this was exactly what you think it would be, but it made me feel all warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum, because from minute 1 to like minute 10, or however long this lasted, they just went move, 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 go, go, go. I mean, they completely destroyed the laws of gravity, but I'm good with it. I mean, Rush and Yuta began all this, but it was when Fenix and Dante Martin got in here where everything just went silly. Like, imagine I said to you, I'm going to give you the power to fly, but also the power to turn everything into a pinning combination. You would become one of these folk. I mean, the Tope Gun Hero the Fenix hit didn't make any sense, and everybody was hitting dives. And the best part is that Roosh looked around, he's like, no, I don't like all this flippy dippy shit. So he got a camera cable and he started trying to kill people. There was also this insane spot with a German suplex right off the top rope into a straitjacket pile driver, and that got a 2.99999, as did every single near fall after this. And it left me going, oh, he's gonna win. No, I've got it wrong. He's gonna win. No, he's gonna win. I was like a dog chasing his tail. It did open the door for Dante to go for his nosedive, but somehow Wheels had this scouted. He did this crazy transitional move, and he locked in the seatbelt pin, and he got the 1, 2, 3. Now, once again, I have flown through this. You need to go and watch it, because I tried to do a count, and I'm pretty sure they hit 7,862 moves, and everyone was flubbing brilliant. I mean, how they pulled this off with barely any mistakes, I don't know. And yes, there is going to be a Joker in that ladder match. Nobody else to put in it. Everybody has been signed, or everybody has been a surprise. So I am intrigued. This is getting it up. And then the Dark Order did get Adam Page. Woohoo! Because we were backstage with Silver and Reynolds, and they were all like, well, we have to have a 3-on-2 match, that's what we'll do. They weren't that depressed, but I just wanted to get the vibe across to you when the cowboy walked in and said, I want this to be the best moment of your careers, so if I have to stand in, I will. And He did kind of sound like that too. He's such a damn hero. So there's nothing too surprising here, but it does fit together like a puzzle, because of course you just know the final is going to be the Elite versus the Dark Order, or Hangman facing off against his former friends. It's just perfect. Poor Excalibur, they had to announce everything that's happening on Rampage, everything that's happening on All Out, and everything that may be going down next week. And given that there's 11 matches at the pay-per-view, 14 if you can include the pre-show, let's all get up and just give a round of applause to Excalibur. I was laughing at this because it was just so fast, and at one point you even heard him go, because of course he did, you need oxygen to survive. I don't know how he does it. It also meant it was time for our main event, the Elite versus the United Empire. And my expectations were already pretty high given who was involved, but holy crap, dude, they exploded that and they took it to another galaxy. I don't think I'm ever going to get over it. Don Callis was also on commentary and made it very clear the reason Kenny Omega's shoulder brace is gone is because he is making his way back to 100%, and I'm very much enjoying this narrative. He's like the Terminator. And then we weren't standing on ceremony here, Mr. Wayne, because the first two people in the ring were Ken and Will Ospreay. Somebody pulled the go trigger, they went at it, and it was beautiful. So somebody needs to book this one-on-one in either AEW or New Japan ASAP. And the tag klaxon went off really quickly, because soon the Young Bucks and Aussie Open were in there too. Everyone was just fighting. The Jacksons soon sent the Australians to the outside, and Kenny Omega joined them all as well. That's when Will Ospreay went for this Sky Twister Press thing, which was nonsense. And by the time they were scrapping on the rampway, Matt Jackson looked around and he was like, I think I can dive off this, and he did. It's pretty damn good. The crowd was also going crazy by this point, as was I, which do not forget is very strange because once again, it's just me screaming in my living room, which is not a normal thing to do. It was like they were leveling up in real time and they were just coming up with brand new maneuvers. I mean, they were just slamming kicks, cutters, suplexes, and hurricane ranas by the time when Ospreay went for the Sasuke special and Kenny grabbed him and gave him a Dragon suplex on the floor. I was like, that's it. They've done it. They've completed wrestling. There's nothing else for them to do. Aussie Open where they're getting theirs because they gave Omega a delayed vertical suplex off the top rope, which was quite incredible. This is when Will Ospreay grabbed the compression vest on Omega and he ripped it off. And I went, I can tell you that I've been alive on this planet for a good while, and it was the first time in 2022 that a compression vest got removed, and I went, oh no. They really did kick the crap out of him too as we continue to sell this idea that Kenny is at 100%, but that doesn't matter because you know who he had in the corner, and Nick Jackson, and he tagged Nikki Baby in, and once again, he just went so insane. He hit so many moves, including this incredible springboard. I've said it once, I'll say it twice. I don't know how he does it. In fact, it would probably be quicker to tell you what he didn't do, and I watched it a couple of times, and I did not see him eat a donut. Otherwise, everything's up for grabs. It was then just hilarious because everybody was in the ring smashing out moves. And at one point, the Young Bucks were going for the Meltzer driver when Will Ospreay cut them off with an Oscar. Now, I do believe this was a wink, wink, nudge, nudge back to their PWG days, but who cares? You could do it every single week. I'm gonna pop. There was then double and triple suplexes, a V-trigger combo, an indie taker, and a spike path driver. And this is when Carl Flex was like, oh no, something bad is happening to me. He then got whammed with more super kicks. He got hit with the V-trigger when Kenny grabbed him and gave him the one-winged angel. 1, 2, 3. These guys are going through to the final, but there was no winners and losers here. It was just terrific and crazy pro wrestling. And I know some people don't like this stuff. You don't have to, but if you do, you have to find the time to see it. These are 6 incredible human beings. They are getting it up. Which also brought us to the end of AEW Dynamite, and beforehand, Tony Khan said that this was going to be a brilliant go-home show, and he wasn't wrong. I do have to hold my hands up and say that AEW lets nothing breathe, and it's probably something that they have to look into going forward, but we are positive Pete's here on this show. We're not negative Nancy's. And if you just sit down and watch it as 2 hours of pure entertainment, I don't see how you couldn't smile. It is getting it up. Now, please do leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Dynamite. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com where you can read yourself some articles. Make sure you come follow us on social media at Simon316 and WhatCulture WWE. And believe you me, there's a lot of videos out there. I know because I did some of them. They're just asking for you to watch. My name is Simon for WhatCulture. Thank you for joining me as always, and I'll see you when I see you, and you'll see me when you'll see me. That's it. I'm done. Goodbye.